but I'm so frustrated. Hello to my loneliness. I guess that ignorance is bliss. Take me back to before I knew. Rewind, take it out of cue. Innocence can be a young man's game. Signed up for the hall of shame. I wish I knew how much I miss not knowing that we're all screwed. When we play our roles and ignore the problems. I like to be away in my patience. Stay up, I feel so outdated. How can we look the other way? Sun is out, but the sky is gray. What would happen if I took a chance? It's always hard at first glance. I don't wanna, but I know I gotta do it. The truth is hard to swallow, I think I'll chew it. I wish I knew how much I miss not knowing that we're all screwed. When we play our roles and ignore the problems. I wish I knew how much I miss not knowing that we're all screwed. When we play our roles and ignore the problems. I wish I knew educated, but I'm so frustrated. How much I miss not knowing that we're all screwed. Educated, but I'm so frustrated. When we play our roles and ignore the problems. I wish I knew educated, but I'm so frustrated. How much I miss not knowing that we're all screwed. Educated, but I'm so frustrated. When we play our roles and ignore the problems. I wish I knew.
Hello, fellow and future entrepreneurs. This is Colin, founder and executive director of Amazing Media and host of Taylor Talk podcast. Really want to welcome y'all to this next episode called The Basics to Starting a Business. If you did not catch episode 1, I just want to give you a brief summary of the things we covered in finding your entrepreneurial passion. So we went over if you have what it takes to become an entrepreneur. How do you know you're an entrepreneur? So some things we covered was identifying your strengths, interests, and skills, brainstorming business ideas that align with your passion, conducting market research to validate your idea, developing a brand identity, strategically position yourself, create a logo and brand messaging, establishing a unique value proposition, and communication. And then we got into partnerships a little bit. So this episode will focus primarily on, okay, you've discovered that you do have the entrepreneurial passion. You've established your strategies, you've established your identity, your branding, your logo design. Now it's time to create the business. So welcome to this episode of the basics to starting a business. This is one of the most critical pieces when starting a business, because how you set your business up is very important, very important. So I'm very excited to have today's guest. He is an awesome strategist when it comes to business, and he knows his stuff when it comes to setting up entities. I've heard him speak in multiple rooms on Clubhouse and forums. And when I say he knows his stuff, he knows his stuff. So hopefully y'all have your pen and paper out there because you are definitely going to need it for this episode. But I would first like to just remind you all, if you go to the community tab on the YouTube channel, you'll see all of the resources, like as far as like, I created pamphlets and things for you to follow along. So I have a process map for you to write down your notes, for you to follow along. So all these things we're giving you, all this advice and tips we're giving you, you're supposed to be jotting these down and then actually putting them in action. So make sure you go into the community tab of the channel to access those documents and those downloads. But without any further ado, I would like to welcome CEO of Austin Business Strategies and the CEO of Bank Ready, and that is Coach John Austin. Coach, welcome. How are you doing today?
Alan Hardman, man, it's good to be here. Really, it's awesome, man. This just being connected on Clubhouse, heard each other speak individually, and love what you're doing on this platform, man. So definitely an honor to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, and thank you for sharing your time to educate our audience as far as like to set them up for success on this journey of entrepreneurship. So I know we have you for a limited time, and I know we have a lot to cover. So if we need to section this out to part two, more than likely there is going to be a part two. So, but we can get into this. So the basics to starting a business. What would you say before setting up your entity? What are some things that need to be considered before people go out and actually get an LLC or S corp or C corp or whatever kind of structure? What would you say is that crucial step our future entrepreneurs need to be looking at?
You got segued from your last interview with Quincy, which was phenomenal, I can only imagine. I like that you got the branding, you got the logo together. Okay, great. Now before we touch an entity, before we build a website of anything of that nature, let's go study our market. Whatever your market is, if it's hair design, cosmetology, if it's landscaping, construction, culinary, whatever that market is, let's go study the market first before we dive in. Oftentimes, entrepreneurs will dive in and they have a parachute, but are you diving out of the wrong plane? Did you dive off the wrong exit? And we hit the ground running like, oh, wait, this is what this is about. So I would definitely tell people to go to the North American Industry Classification System, NAICS.com, and plug in your industry, right? And start studying your market. Once you find that NAICS code for your industry, it'll give you the top 10 revenue grossing companies in that industry. Now you start to pick apart who else is doing this in my marketplace, right?
Right.
And how can I find niche within that space?
So
First thing I would do.
So before you continue on, for those who don't know, what is a NAICS code?
So NAICS code is, how can I categorize to make it really simple? NAICS code is the North American Industry Classification System number for your industry. So if I'm in real estate, that's a very broad. So real estate has a number that the banks understand. When you're getting contracts, you're in that particular code. But now you can go from a real estate NAICS code to am I a realtor? Am I a commercial realtor? Am I a banker, lender, title company? There's multiple codes within that industry, and that code designates exactly what you're doing in that industry. Exactly what you're doing in the industry, yeah.
So this is very important to have those NAICS codes, even when people are starting a business for the first time, just starting right out the gate?
Out the gate, got to have it. Couple things that you're going to need. When you go to open up your bank account, you want to have that NAICS code with you. You don't want the bank to assume what business you're in, right? So you want to know what your NAICS code is and be able to discuss with the banker. This is my NAICS code. This is my industry. This is the upside for that industry. This is how I'm entering that industry, and have that conversation with that business banker for sure, for sure.
Awesome. So that's www.naicscode or NAICS.com, correct?
Exactly. Yeah, the fundamentals to start with.
And then, of course, there's thousands upon thousands of NAICS codes. So Is it wrong to, can you have too many NAICS codes? Is there a rule of having too many or too little? What is that? Or is there a sweet number in between?
That's a nice question. I'm so glad you posed that. Uh, you can't have too many as long as in the course of a business day, business week, business month, what are you actually doing? And as long as those NAICS codes cover that landscape, right? I speak of it as driving on the freeway, right? We're here in Houston, so if I'm driving on the Beltway, there's only so many exits I can take to get my job done for the day, right? I can't take every exit because it's going to take me too long to get there. But as long as those NAICS codes fit what you're doing for the day, the scope of work that you're accomplishing, totally fine. I've seen most people have between 3 to 5, up to even 6 NAICS codes because it covers everything that they're doing, because on the other side of it are opportunities that you want to make sure the people that are looking for you understand you can accomplish those different tasks.
Right. Okay. I got you. All right. So moving on to so after they got their next codes, let's see, they got 3 to 5 next codes. They have that. What would be the next logical step as far as what they need to do to set up their entity?
So once you get your code, like I was saying earlier, make sure you click on that NAICS code. The next page that pops up gives you the top 10 revenue generating companies in that NAICS code. I will start researching all those companies, what their websites look like, what kind of revenue are they driving, how long they've been in business, what do they do, the brand colors, everything about those businesses. They're the top revenue driving companies in that industry for a reason. So, how do you fit with their mission, vision, their clients, all those things you want to look at? And I would take a whole dry erase board and put every company down, pros and cons, and how do I fit into that market space? How much market cap they have, and where are you looking to fit in? Right? Where are they at regionally compared to you? Do that and research a little bit deeper into next before you go a step further. Now, once you've got that down, I would say definitely, and again, we're talking about business setups, but the Federal Procurement Data System, FPDS.gov, is a cheat code after NAICS because you may not get into government contracting, but you can understand who's subcontracting, who's winning awards, who's doing business with whom, and you can see at a totality, am I where are my clients at? They may be government, they may be Navy, Air Force, or they may be right here in my city, and you may be looking at something totally different. It's another cheat code because you can take your NAICS code and plug it into that federal procurement data system and see who's been winning contracts for the last 20, 30 years.
Right.
Another cheat code to say, you know what, this is what the landscape looks like. Before I jump out into it, I may want to partner with some of these guys. They may have market share that I can take up, or they may be missing a partner in me, right? So that would be the next step right after that.
Okay. And I don't want this to go over people's heads of what we're talking about. So government
Sure.
contracting, you might think that's a little too early out the gate and everything to start with government contracting. But when you do business with the government is recession proof. They print the money. So there's a lot of ups and downs that you hear about in entrepreneurship because you can have bad days, you can have a ton of bad days, and you can have good days because that can be determined on the market, that could be determined on your client and their spending habits. It's a lot of factors, but a good security net or a good safety net is doing business with the government because there's so many different departments. There's so many needs and wants, so more than likely they're going to have a need for what you do, getting into those NAICS codes and everything that Coach John is talking about. So it's not too early to think about government contract. This is actually something this is something that's going to help you in the long term because this is something that's secure, that's going to have a solid foundation, that's going to be continual income coming in because the government is always going to need services, products, systems, and things like that. So that's what we were talking about as far as like PDS and all that. I'm slaughtering it, but FPDS, because we're going to get into that as well. But yes, did you have
Exactly.
something else?
Yeah. So I was going to say, when you're getting into business, we always are looking for who's our client, who's our target market, who's our target client. We're going to go B2B, business to business. We want to also see that other businesses or agencies are in the government sphere. That government agency could be the local city, it could be the local universities, the school system, high schools, it could be anything within that genre. So when you look at government contracting, it's like, well, what business or entity can I work with that needs what I offer? And this is the non-sexy stuff, but this is part of the market research to where you want to start
Yeah.
attending the SBA meetings, SCORE meetings, Chamber of Commerce, that's three, to start seeing what does the business landscape look like to me. We don't need to rely on social media so much when the real business is done right in our backyard.
Hmm.
So when you're attending those, start seeing what private companies are attending the government meetings. Private and public and government, they coincide so much,
Yep.
and a lot of entrepreneurs miss that out the gate. They really miss that. So I don't want people to not catch that coming out the gate. So one of the next things I would say is make sure you get your SCORE mentor. Make sure you're attending the SBA meetings, and make sure you're definitely attending those Chamber of Commerce meetings.
And
It's
where
it's it, it's a must. It's a must.
and where are they getting this resource again to see where these procurement events and everything are going on?
So whatever city you're in, I know people from all over the nation will be watching this. So let's just say Houston, for example, because we're here. I will look up Houston Chamber of Commerce, and there's going to be multiple chambers of commerce: Asian, Hispanic, Black,
Hmm.
the women's chamber. There's so many different chambers of commerce, and let's not forget what it's saying: Chamber of Commerce, which in layman terms where business is done. So you want to see where those chambers are at, their calendars are live, and plug in on your calendar when they have different networking events, hosting, teaching on different topics. It's all Googleable. It's all public record.
And then I want to add this also because I know you did say people should, when they're doing the market research, entrepreneurs should be looking at other companies, like how they're doing business, how they're set up, and things like that. I can tell you when I set up my business, that's what I did. A lot of people don't know this, but I really took a liking to Apple. This isn't a free advertisement for Apple, but I'm in love with Apple products and them as a company because they are all about quality products. And that's one thing that separates my business from my competition is the quality of our services that we provide. We do video, we do marketing services, so I really emphasize the quality. But I just took a liking to Apple, and then I just started researching them and seeing the things that they were doing, and start implementing those things into my own business. So these are companies that are established, and you can look at it as they've done the hard work and the homework for you. It's just like you can literally just take a page out of their book, look what they're doing, how they're doing it, and then just implement that into your business, into your business strategy. So as you're doing your market research, you're looking at these other companies and competitors and things like that. See if any of the things that they're doing align with your own brand, your own business, and then start implementing that with your own personal little twist on it. So,
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, entrepreneurship should be a cheat code way of doing business. Don't try to come out the gate and be something special and try to create something new. Put in your own special twist. And I love the way you say that. Put your special twist to it. And I hope people understand as we have this conversation, one piece out there, if you're in your 9 to 5, whatever you're doing currently, before you're starting this business, before you start, the strategy is let's get out here and see what's going on around me before I jump out and start doing business. Before I take a dime from anybody, let me figure out what's going on around me, right? And one of the first mentors you should have before contact me, honestly, go to SCORE and find out where SCORE here, Houston, Atlanta, wherever you're at, and say, listen, I'm an African American male business SCORE mentor. I want to get a Latino female, African American female. They'll partner you with the right SCORE mentor that's in your area, right? If they're where you are, they can speak the language that you speak, right? Be a Hispanic female in Houston that I can talk to that's in my industry, but there may be one in Oregon, there may be one in
mm-hmm,
Florida, somewhere, and let them partner with you and start mentoring you out the gate because they are retired executives
mm-hmm.
and the SCORE mentors are free, federal dollars pay for it. Start with those folks first. Then go into your SBA and start attending those meetings along with those chamber meetings. That by itself, with the market research that we spoke of earlier, will
Right.
decrease your level of failure by so much. It's amazing.
So, what is the importance of having a mentor? What is their purpose, and what does that do for you in the long run in entrepreneurship? Having a mentor.
Mentors save you a lot of time and headache. First of all, they've been where you're looking to go. There's a book called Outliers, and Maxwell talks about how you need to have 10,000 hours of focus, concentrated effort, particular. Those 10,000 hours make you an expert. A lot of these score mentors have 30, 40, 50,000 hours. They've done this their whole life,
Yep.
right? So yeah, then there's a lot about, but that's focused time. So me going to a score mentor, right, allows me to understand what they've learned over decades, sometimes in a matter of hours. They collapse time for us.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to get that season. Well, they're older, coach. You don't understand. This is 2023. No, business has much. Yes, guys here and things of that nature. But what has this point they can give you. They've been on more earnings calls, guidance calls, and forward forecasting than you can shake a stick at.
Mm-hmm.
All of that becomes relevant to how fast, because business is all about
Mm-hmm.
speed and efficiency.
Right.
So
Yep.
if I can make a faster decision with more perspective behind me, not by an Instagram post, but by someone who's actually done this for a living for years. And let me also say a mentor has a Rolodex of their own colleagues
Right.
that they can pull from and say, you know what, I'm not good at this as much. Call Susan, call Ron over here, call so and so. That network is vast. So
Yep.
the need of a mentor, that's looking to do for years and been successful and failed, etc. It is priceless,
Yep.
priceless. I've got a few mentors myself, to be
Mm-hmm.
honest with you.
Everybody should have mentors, and like Coach said, it's invaluable to have a mentor. Those of you that heard, my own story in the introduction and in episode 1, I didn't come from a family of entrepreneurs, so it was a lot of me figuring things out on my own. Eventually, I got traction and then got mentors along the way, and those mentors were clients that turned into mentors because they loved the work that I was doing. So they booked me for another project and again another one, and then naturally a friendship started forming. And then they started giving me guidance because they were doing things on a much bigger scale than myself. And it's just like, Colin, I like what you're doing, but I see where you could improve some things, and they just eventually became my mentors. So that was like year 4, year 5 that I acquired mentors. So if you get mentors out of the gate, you are already set, like you're already putting yourself ahead of majority of entrepreneurs that don't even have mentors and things like that. So having a mentor that can provide their resources, as Coach John said, that can steer you, prod you in the right direction if you start veering off a little bit, that can introduce you to more people in their network, it is giving you a huge leg up in the business world, in the entrepreneur world. So having a mentor is definitely invaluable. And now you have a place you can go to just get these mentors versus seeking them out, or just happen to meet them by happenstance. You can go to a place and get mentors. That, I don't want y'all to miss that. That's very crucial and very important.
Very, very important, highly important.
Yes. So, and you said you was talking about the SBA office, of course, where you get these score mentors.
Yeah, so Score, so there's technically two different offices. They're
Okay.
funded by the same arm. SBA Fund Score. Our taxpayer dollars for an SBA Fund Score. Uh, so definitely look up score.org. And you can pull them up geographically. So most regions have a local Score office or somewhere within
Got it.
distance. And now you've got the mix of virtual and in person.
Okay.
So definitely look up score.org and you can call them and see, hey, listen, this is what I'm trying to do. This is the industry I'm in. Can you find me a score mentor that looks like me, talks like me, same industry, and they'll put you in the right place.
Right. And of
Um,
course, oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was,
Okay.
I was just going to let the viewers know. Of course, we're putting these links up on the screen, but they'll also be in the description of the podcast. So make sure y'all read the description. We'll have all of these links that we're talking about, of these resources, in the description of this podcast. So, but continue on.
Yeah. And also, too, just for context, and I'll probably do it again, this is coming from almost 18 years of expertise, global expertise in business strategy. Okay. I started out in the real estate space, green commercial construction, we had master project. Fast forward to now, I'm teaching and consulting in the space I've always worked in. And I see what works and what doesn't. And a lot of us try to jump out too soon because we want to be active in business and we lose a lot of time, a lot of traction. And
Yep.
statistics will show small business for a number of reasons. I found they fail because these things don't happen first.
Correct.
And it takes a lot of stress off of us when we're getting this particular strategy. So I would say after score, after NAICS.com and all, um, go to the SBA. Find your local SBA or your local Small Business Development Center offices. Let them know who you are. Let them know what phase. I'm just starting. I don't know. No, no, no. That's what they're there for. That's a
Mm-hmm.
good thing. Your small business centers and your SBA offices, let them know who. I want to hop on y'all's calendar. I got to go to these events. Let me learn from you how this works. And my score mentor is Jan or Bob, so and so. Oh, really? Great. Because the funny thing, they all know each other
Mm-hmm.
at all these events, the procurement events, the SBA events, the SCORE events, the city events, whatever, they're always at a table where SCORE knows SBA, knows SBDC, knows the city, knows
Mm-hmm.
the head of Shell Oil, ConocoPhillips, Apple in the region, Amazon that's coming here. They all know each other
Yep.
and they all do talk to each other. So, hey, we got an aspiring entrepreneur. They're taking the proper steps to get things done. We like what they're doing. They're taking our guidance. Instead of an LLC, maybe you should do an S corp or whatever. They can help you with all that stuff that we are confused about.
Right.
Let them lead you. Let them lead and guide you to where you need to be.
And when they see that you have all these things in place, everything that we're discussing, as far as like you setting up your business, when they see that you have your, I ain't gonna say it. When they see you have your stuff together, like Coach says, they without you even opening your mouth, they know that you're serious because they see that you've done the groundwork. They see that, oh, okay, he has a professional website. He's structured this way. He has this in place. He has these certifications. He has these NAICS codes. So that speaks volumes to who you are without you even opening your mouth. And I know you heard that saying, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And that plays a big part of it. And also, because like you said, if you know these, you establish a relationship. What you're going to find out in entrepreneurship also is it's going to be a lot of relationship building. If you're not building relationships as an entrepreneur, you're really setting yourself up for failure also because that creating relationships it goes far and beyond, and it creates this synergy of just work. It creates opportunities. It creates resources. When people are talking about you, when people know of your work, it goes much further than you trying to market and things like that. Marketing, of course, helps, but when you have just an organic marketing machine going on and people are speaking great things about you, it really goes a long way. Um, and all these
Sure.
resources. So let's talk more about that, Coach. As far as like these resources, because I know you mentioned the Chamber of Commerce, the SBA office. What are some other resources? Because a lot of entrepreneurs might think that they're on their own, but might not necessarily know that there's tons of resources and tools out there in their own cities. So what are some other resources that they could tap into outside the SBA office? I mean, in addition to the SBA office, Chamber of Commerce. I have a few.
Yeah,
I have a few I'm gonna mention as well, but
yeah. I mean, there's so many. There's so many. Don't underestimate that that score mentorship because they're going to shoot you into contact with those offices. Urban League is another one. Don't underestimate the Urban League. And the funny thing about these organizations, again, they may not sound sexy, may not be something you're thinking of, but they know who you need to go to. So definitely Score Office, SBA, Small Business Development Center. All you may hear is the SBDC. You'll have your Office of Business Opportunity with your local city. That's where all the city, the county business comes into play. Okay, so they help you with your certifications, they help you with networking, things of that nature. Uh, I got to brain freeze for a second. I
no
just said a
worries.
second. Urban League, yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Urban League is one. Even your job fairs, your meet the buyer events in the
Yep.
city, your um, local city councilman, oddly enough, are connected to the economic development director, connected to the city planner, the land bank. Well, cool. So I'm not in real estate, but those are the folks that are touching commerce. So everything that we mentioned, pause it, rewind it, Google it up. You've got enough right there before you even touch social media. And make sure you have a LinkedIn profile set up
Yep.
professionally, and everything that I just told you that we just talked about, put that in the search bar and click it for your city. You'll be amazed everything that comes up and who's following those guys.
Yep.
You'll have a Rolodex 20 agencies long by the time we're done, and just start attending those meetings that they're having, and you'll be amazed how quickly your business, just the research alone, will take you, right? And
Yep.
you'll take that data and start plugging it into your business plan, which is the next thing we'll talk about, hopefully.
Absolutely, because those small business development events are very important. It took me a while to finally start attending them, but I would start going, and they literally give you pamphlets, they give you leads, they give you different systems you can tap into that can get you registered with the city, so you can do contracts and business with the city as well. So it is tons of resources that once again, I don't want to say wasted a lot of time, but it took me a while to finally start attending those events on my own because once again, I didn't have that guidance. I didn't have that mentor yet to say, hey, go to these local resources and things like that. So as you're applying all of these things that we're talking about, all these resources, you're really setting yourself up for success in the short term. So yeah,
Let me
so
add
you,
something in there
mhm.
too. Yeah, let me add a little something in it because I wanted to say it earlier. One of the cool things about these resources, and people miss this if they don't go, and you probably notice this too, Colin, as you start attending. When people know what you do, SBA and SCORE in particular, but everyone there, they know what other people are needing based on what they talk about. So I've had people come in and say, I design websites, I do this, I do marketing, I do branding, I have a fuel company, I have this company, that company, and they'll start to network. Just go to this person, that person. Two best relationships right now came from the SBA, knowing what I do and who I need to talk to. And when I consistently started showing up, one of the heads of the SBA here locally say, "Hey, you should talk to so and so. And do you know this person over here?" I said, "Yeah, I know her. No, but do you know what she does though?" Like, well, this, and no, go talk to her." And that turned into a half a day conversation. And now that's one of my leads into NASA's Small Business Council. Another one turned into a port conversation. So it's just those things that by itself,
Yep.
you can't pay enough leads for that.
Right.
You can't even market enough for that. And they see you, give it another about 6 months or so, and they've seen you enough that you're always here. Okay, well, okay. So what do you do again? And then they'll want to help because they see you showing up
Yep.
consistently. And it's one, two phone calls, really not phone calls, points away or a business card away from you being in a whole nother trajectory. Something you could never do just starting on your own without that help.
I can't tell you how many times that happened to me, and it was just that kind of reaction. Also, it's just like, okay, so what does Colin do? Yeah, Colin does this and Colin, I needed you 2 weeks ago. It's like I needed you last year. Where have you been all my life? So yeah, that's
That part right there is the sauce. Where have you been all my life?
yep.
I needed you, and then other people hear the same thing because they're all in the room together. Now you're heads up with you never know who this person is, and now they're all hearing from you. Oh, but do you have a card? Do you have a card?
Yep.
Yeah, it's the best thing going. Those little events can turn into a lot.
It can turn into some big opportunities, and then there's so much. There's so much that can happen behind the scenes too. It's just like I'm not gonna give away the code and things like that. I'll leave that to Coach John. But when you develop those relationships, there's a process, but there doesn't necessarily have to be a process for you if you have a great enough relationship. They can make things happen specifically for you because it's like you're the go-to person. So, but yeah, so we can get into the business plan also. Um, let's talk about this because there is the stigma of, well, with my kind of business or the industry I'm in, I don't necessarily need a business plan. Would you say that there's a truth to that? Is that a truth? Is that a myth? Does every business need to have a business plan, or all businesses pretty much form the same? Not form the same, but every single business needs to have a business plan.
If anyone tells you anything other than that, I would run so fast and so far away from that advice. Business is business no matter what industry you're in. Now, you may go with maybe a live plan, a shorter, more strategic action plan. You may not need a full blown 50-page plan that goes into the market research and the SWOT and the risk analysis and this and that. But maybe you might. Why wouldn't you want to go deep into everything that aligns and that puts you in position to be successful? The things we don't plan for will happen with or without our plan, period.
Right.
So either you plan for it or you don't, but it's going to happen one way or the other. And I was like, why are we so afraid of paperwork? Why are we so afraid to go down that list of questions? If you go to score.org and SBA.gov, they'll give you templates for a business plan. They'll give you templates. Those templates are a list of questions that you should answer. And if you don't know the answer to those, go research them. Go find out why you don't know those answers.
Mm-hmm.
That's the base for not just your business plan, but your business strategy going forward. Year one, year two, year five, when to pivot, how to pivot. So all of those things matter so much. So it may not be the full blown business plan, but I would honestly say go through that exercise of planning and strategizing and then succinct it down to exactly what you should be doing. And one of the cool things about the plan is it'll tell you what you're good at, it'll tell
Yep.
you what you're not good at, and who you should be hiring. So if Colin is somebody that does is an expert over here, and I'm going to need that sooner than later, let me start building a relationship with Colin, and then maybe send him a copy of my deck. A pitch deck is a shorter form PowerPoint of your business plan, right? Your systems come from your business plan.
Yep.
Everything you're planning to do is right there, and lo and behold, you try to get funding or financing, or or you want to bring somebody else on, let them see your plan and
Right.
let them dive into it, break it apart, and lay out some groundwork for you. So yes, everyone needs a business plan.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see why we try to avoid that strategy, that chessboard work. But again, 18 years talking here, and what do I know?
I want to try to answer that from conversations and passing and things like that. I think what it for writing a business plan forces them to really think out the intricacies of their business, and they might not necessarily know what that is. Also, it's almost like accountability. There's some people out there that don't like to take accountability, but what does accountability ultimately do to you, coach? When you take accountability, what does that do for you? It helps improve you. It helps you not
It
make
does.
that same
It
mistake
does.
again. It's just like, you know what, I messed up. I did this. I'm gonna own up to it, and you become better. So when you are putting this business plan together, it's more clearer. It's gonna be more. It's gonna be clearer as far as like what you do, who you are, and what you provide. Not only that is once you start growing, like once you start scaling, you start adding components, teams, employees, it will be easier for you to effectively communicate what your vision, what your goal is, and it's going to be easier for them to get on board with that vision and goal. So all this paperwork, all these systems are only going to make you better. It's going to make you more attractive in that competitive world, and it's only going to get you bigger, more. It's going to get you bigger opportunities. So take that accountability, people. Don't be too lazy, because I know if you go back and watch that intro video, I talked about that invisible ceiling that I start hitting. I was rolling, my business was doing so great, I was traveling here, I was going to all these big prominent events, but then after a while it stopped becoming fun. And the reason it stopped becoming fun is because I was hitting my head on that invisible ceiling. And that invisible ceiling was not having no systems, not having a business plan. I basically reached the peak of where I was with no structure and nothing in place. I reached the top um, of where I was basically. So it's just like I told myself, Colin, what are you gonna do? It's just like if you want to break through this ceiling, you need to start putting these other things in place. You need to start putting a structure in place. You need to write a business plan. You need to start doing big business things. If not, then stop complaining and just keep doing business under this cap. So of course, logically, the answer was I don't want to stay here. It's like I'm not being fulfilled. I'm not happy. I've outgrown myself. I need to break through. And then that's when the company stopped becoming a me thing and started becoming a we thing. That's when I start implementing things like internships, other employees, and things like that. So everything just started making sense. And then COVID came along, and it really just, it just, it really just accelerated everything. It just accelerated growth, and everything we're talking about is everything that you're going to need to implement. So definitely do the business plan. Is going to give you a clearer vision of who you are, and if you don't have that down, it'll help you nail that down. So
Yeah. Two words I would want to break down in, right? I think is what people really should get. Accountability and responsibility. Entrepreneurs rarely break down. I heard somebody put a post about, uh, I'm going to give you steps to be able to run your business without you running it. without you having your hands on it. But there was no planning, no strategy. Like, how are you going to do that? That was confusing for me. But accountability, responsibility, accountability, the ability to be accountable, responsibility, the ability to respond. Without a strategy or a foundation in place, you can't be accounted to do anything and you can't respond to anything. So the ability is taken totally away from you
Yeah.
because you haven't created the ability to do anything.
Wow.
But when you do have that plan, that strategy, now you're accountable and you can
Wow.
put accountability on other people because there's a strategy there of, hey, here's a system. I need you to do this. Like right now, my team's doing a lot. One of our team members is ill. We have a protocol and a process in place. When one person's down, here's how we kick in. So we can still have this interview. We still do this podcast. I got a meeting later, this, that, and the other, and nothing really misses a hip because it's in the plan already. It's already been strategized and
Yeah.
thought out. So I can respond and be accountable and hold them accountable for what we as a company need to be responsible for. That's the conversations we should be having. And CEOs, solopreneurs should be thinking ahead of time based on everything else that they've seen around them in the other companies, everything we talked about. How can I respond to an opportunity and be
Mm.
accountable to a contract opportunity with another company? It all ties
Wow.
into where's the plan for that in the first place.
Wow. I've never heard accountability and responsibility broken down like that. I just took some mental notes. So, wow, those are some gems right there. Um, so, we covered a lot as far as just the intangible things everyone can do, as far as like properly setting up their business. So I'm gonna save part two. I'm gonna save up the tangible things of setting up the actual business for part two, because I think this is very important. This is extremely important what we just covered. So while I still have you, what I want to do is go into Coach John personally. So, what were some of the pitfalls you faced just starting out in entrepreneurship that you learned from, and what are some things? We'll get into the things that you implemented to basically like learn from those mistakes, and what were the corrections, what was the pivot, or what were the things you put in place to basically not repeat those mistakes. So, first of all, what were some of those mistakes in early entrepreneurship that you faced?
I was thrust into, I mean, I've been working, understood, well, what they call entrepreneurship. I thought it was just work. When I was working with my dad's company and with my mom's family on the farm, it was always work, but they worked for themselves. So I was able to see some of that, but it was always just work to me. I never knew it was entrepreneurship. I didn't know about the systems they didn't have in place. So I just thought you would, I just did it. And when I was laid off at Baylor as a cancer research coordinator there, great salary, great schedule, flipping houses part time, off like, what the heck am I going to do here? So I was thrust into entrepreneurship with no plan, no strategy, no nothing but go make this money because you're going to be behind before long. Savings can dry up really quickly.
Yeah.
So I didn't have time to jump out there, and I know as a lot of entrepreneurs do. So one of the biggest ills for me is that if you can plan these things out ahead of time while you've got your job, great to do. And that's happened to me twice. My first two big L's were that success came so fast I couldn't plan for it. So I was spending and learning and take. It was just a lot of time. Uh, thank God for being able to pivot enough. But that was one of the hardest things, doing it twice. Not having a plan of action in place and an audit or a contingency, not a plan B, just a contingency if things go awry. What does it look like? And obviously, there was no mentor there, so I had to figure it out on my own. That was the
Yeah,
toughest.
and you said a big thing there. You said you burned through your savings. So that's the other thing with entrepreneurship, because I like what you said, because sometimes people ask me, it's just like, should I, pursue my entrepreneurship first, or should I, work a job and save up first? I was like, why is it an or? Why can't it be an and? It's like you could do your business and have an employer, because you can use that money that your employer is paying you, pay all your necessities, put money in your savings, but also then start putting money into your business. Look at your job as your investor. And I say that a lot of times. But when you're starting out in entrepreneurship, would you say it's important to have a stash on the side, or what would you say about as far as like having money before starting entrepreneurship? Is it a necessity, and should you have a nest egg?
Paramount, paramount, yes, heck yes. Bleep, bleep, yes. You better. Um, one of the things we teach our clients is, especially at a 9 to 5, when some of them, most want to get away from that 9 to 5 so bad. I'm tired of it. Sick. I want to go be this and the third. And I was like, well, you're stressing out because you hate where you are, because
Yep.
mentally you haven't tapped out yet. Most people can run their 9 to 5s and be a robot and still take the downtime, your breaks, your lunch breaks, and time later, and start researching your market and understanding where you should go. And if your entrepreneurship isn't paying the same salary as your job is with the same consistency and at least 6 months of reserve, at least
Hmm.
6 months of reserve, if not more, because you don't understand how cyclical every business is.
Yep.
One of the hot months, one of the down months. You try to jump out in this thing, it's a cold season. You won't make money until 3, 4 months into it, and you have no reserves laid up. This
Hmm.
whole thing has to be thought out and planned out. So the best time to do it is when you have a job. If anything, at your job, be employee of the month. Honestly, I work overtime. I learn all the systems that my company has. I tap into their HR, their cybersecurity, whatever they do over there in a system. How
Hmm.
can I learn from them and do that here with my own business, create my own systems, my own plan? What are they doing? Can you sit in on some of those earnings calls? Can you sit in on some of those guidance meetings that the top executives are having just to learn? So yes, have some money. I just had a session with Port Houston, and I taught on fiscal and financial capacity. And one of the things that the banks will always tell you: talk to the banks before you need the money.
Right.
Have an access,
Because
have
that's what
operating
that's
capital,
develop.
yeah,
Because
ahead of
that's
time.
relationship building, right?
Oh my goodness, get with the business relationship manager and find out what kind of operating capital line of credit you need before you need it. It'll just sit there. You don't need it, but when you do need it, or
Right.
you need to show proof of funds or liquidity, it's there already,
Right.
or you can build into it. So take care of the things that you need to have taken care of ahead of time. The only way you'll know is if you ask. But to answer your question, please have reserves, at least 6 months of reserves. I'd rather 18 months,
Yeah.
so that your business is growing enough revenues where you got reserves and cash flow coming in. You can slowly back away from that job, then pursue it full time if that's what you desire.
Exactly. That was my path. Once my business start just consistently doing more and making more than my job, deuces. Um, so you talked about the failure. So talk about the success in entrepreneurship. When did things start coming together and making sense? And what was some of those strategies that you were putting in place that helped that success?
Man, first major success was on the heels of that layoff. We had to jump in full time. I had to physically write my business plan that I had to submit to the City of Hutchins, South Dallas, for that project up there, and it went from a 10 million to 50 million, and ultimately $1.5 billion dollar project that we ended up exiting 4 or 5 years later. Uh, that success was insane, but I didn't realize it was success because I had to eat,
Hmm.
and this was where we were good at it. It kept allowing us to build. So networking, becoming a member of the board of directors for NASCO, so many good things. And I did a lot of that sleeping in my car, because around 08, 09 is when the crisis was happening with the real estate crisis. So we had to sell our house, which if I had a mentor, I wouldn't have sold that house. Moved my family back to
Hmm.
Louisiana. I drove back to Houston Monday through Friday. I slept in my car. But in all of that happening for those 3 or 4 months, we were allowed to get awarded that contract. So that was success through the roof. I mean, I went to a global summit in Quebec City, Canada, opened up accounts in Madrid, Spain, did a lot of different things, had a warehouse in Atlanta for our green technology. So that was just success upon success. And I mean, I thank God for it, because I couldn't have written that script any better. Took an L around that time, bounced back.
Hmm.
Now we have a monster success year this year in the midst of this recessionary time period, where we're working with LSU as an oil and gas company. I can't mention right now. We're going to have a major contract with them, intimately working with the port. We're about to partner with a few banks. And I don't mean partner like brand partnership, like we're actually going to be partnering, working together.
Wow.
So there's a lot that's going on. Prairie A&M, their SBDC, working with the mayor there. There's a lot that we're doing that's just success upon success. And I thank God for it. And without my team,
Yeah.
and the L's we took before and the successes before, this stage of my career is, I just can't. Yeah, it's crazy.
So you didn't let the failures stop you. You didn't let the failures say, "Man, I don't know. I don't think I'm cut out for this thing." let me go back to this safety net over here. It was you was never discouraged. You just kept going.
I will not say I was never discouraged because I'll say it took the wind out of me a
Yeah.
lot of times. I ain't gonna lie to you. Now, would I would say I'm gonna go back? Oh heck no. I'm never gonna let you fire me again. No, no, we ain't doing that today. When I felt what firing tastes like, and my director was I mean, a juggernaut physician, world renowned, everything. She was crying. I'd never seen this woman cry a day in her life. And so she's like, I had no control of this. We have to let you guys go.
Mm-hmm.
And when I figured out the business of business, even in healthcare, anywhere, that you can get let go, okay, got it. Um, I'll never let it happen again. And now feeling and tasting the freedom of entrepreneurship, controlling my schedule, controlling my brand. When people are in a 9 to 5, I'm like, you can mentally tap out and not be stressed out and build something and stay secure with what you have.
Mm-hmm.
So no, I never let it. I mean, it took me down a few times. I mean, I had a nervous breakdown before. I have held some health issues because I pushed it too hard. There's been some ups and downs,
Yeah.
some serious downs, but
Yep.
never let it to where I'm not going to ever do this again. Nah, nah. I've taken some side projects and did it kind of like a 9 to 5 to take a breather, rebuild, and kept it going. But nah, I'm
Yeah.
never going to never not do this.
And that kind of went into what we talked about episode one is discovering your entrepreneur passion, that P word, passion. If you're passionate about what you do, that's what helps you persevere. That's what keeps you into it because there's a lot of dark, cold days that a lot of people don't talk about. You just kind of see the glitz and glamour, but you don't see the long nights. You don't see the sleeping in cars. You don't see the many months of no income, of not being able to get groceries, not knowing where your next meal is going to come from. So, but you have to have that burning desire inside of you because that's what gets you through those days. That's what helps you. That's what molds you. It builds character and it makes you into a juggernaut, as Coach said. So, all this was great information. So, just to quickly recap, of course, when we want to do market research. So, it's like when you're starting out your business, do that market research. So, if you want to just kind of summarize just the market research, and we'll just go down the line and then we'll conclude.
Yeah, yeah. So as an entrepreneur, you're sitting at your desk and you're like, everybody has this conversation, or you really should slow down enough to have this conversation. What am I about to do? I see this. I have this burning heat in here. There's something like I gotta do this that's bigger than me. What is that? What does that look like? Okay, before you take a step further, you want to peek around the corner out here in this world you are not in just yet, and make sure you understand the players, the uh, road to entry, the barrier of entry, the rules of engagement, how things work around here, and don't assume you know something that you have not tasted, felt, and been in it long enough. Please
Mm-hmm.
don't do that. Some people get a little, they don't taste humble pie early on, and then don't become a student of the game early on. So that is what market research is. You want to know enough about it before you jump out into this thing. So please jump out and tap into those resources we talked about with the scores and the SBAs, and exhaust those free resources. Exhaust them as much as possible
Yep.
before you say, I'm gonna take my first and you can go into the 333 method, of doing three
Mm-hmm.
for free and three half price and three full price. You kind of build into
Yep.
that and testing the waters that way. We can definitely go over that on round two, if you will.
Yeah, definitely. Because I was
So
gonna say that's huge. The 333 method. That will make a lot of
yeah,
sense. But yeah, it's like when you're presenting a new product service, it's just like, well, how do I get it out there? I'm not going to go into that. We'll get into that part two, definitely, because
yeah,
I'm gonna go
yeah. I
off on a
love it.
tangent here. So then the next thing is the NAICS code. So summarize just the NAICS codes again, and
So
then
next
just
code,
talk a little bit about the PSC codes also. I don't, how is that very
yeah,
important? The PSC codes along with the NAICS codes.
yeah. So I'm gonna add another one. So you got your NAICS codes, your PSC codes, and your NIGP codes. Which NIGP
Yes,
is
ma'am.
that basically your state NAICS codes. So those three codes, they're all very important because they tell you one, what you're doing, pro- are your product services codes. What are you doing in the marketplace? Like, what are you selling? What does the marketplace need that you are providing it? Those codes tell the marketplace basically how you're going to get paid.
Mm-hmm.
They allow you to do research based on those codes. So without those codes, you're using, and also when you're in business, you have to use business vernacular, use the terminology that business has presented itself.
Yep.
Understanding what the NAICS code language is, what the PSC code language is, you can start researching a lot of things that will down holes that you never would have taken down before, and you understand what that market is saying to you, and you knows how to use those words because you'll be in business meetings. And I'm so glad you asked this question. One of the things that I've noticed cause businesses to fail or people to quit, they get embarrassed because they don't understand the words that are being mentioned. And you say something that sounds Instagram like or Facebook like, and you get in a business room and they're like, what are you talking about? Now, you can't say wholesaling in a business room.
Right.
It doesn't make sense because they don't use those words there. So just be careful and understand the vernacular. So those PSC codes, uh, government contracting or not, this is just business 101. And those three different sets of codes and what you do in those codes and how that works and that economy works within those codes, man, listen, you're far beyond most people, honestly.
Absolutely. Wow. That's that's very transformative information. So of course you can visit nixcodes.com to find out what your Nix codes is. And where are those other, because that last code you gave me, that was new to me also. So are those, what are those websites for those? The PSC codes and,
Uh, yeah. So PSC code. So you can definitely just Google
yeah, well,
PSC codes. Yeah.
I was gonna say, I'll put it in the
You can
description. I'm
definitely look.
sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, you can definitely look up your PSC codes and then just Google um, what is my state's NIGP codes, NIGP, and those are your state codes. Those are actually more niche than NAICS code. So NAICS could be one number. You might have 5 or 6 NIGP codes per NAICS code. So those are more state related, but definitely codes that you want to be aware of for sure,
Okay,
for
and then
sure.
of course they can visit fpds.gov and usaspending.gov. So just talk about those sites again, just summarize those sites and what information they'll get between
Yeah.
those.
Most definitely. So your federal procurement data system is an old school site, a wonderful site. You can put toilet paper in the search bar. They have their own little Google search. You put toilet paper in there, and it'll give you every toiletry paper product that has ever been bought on the federal contract. And they'll show you who assigned the contract, what company bought the contract, how old they are, and every contract that was assigned. Talk about a cheat code. My
Yeah,
goodness. You can, and then you click the company name, you can click the agency name and see who's serving, who's selling, buying, and how often. USA Spending is an advanced version of SPDS.gov. And USA Spending, my goodness, is a resource to where what is the United States government spending money on? What is the USA spending money on? What categories are they spending money on? Where is the money being spent? And all of this allows us to do is at the end of the day, and I want to wait till the end before I say this, you're creating a market feasibility study. How feasible is it for what you're looking at doing? I want to do this business. Well, I don't care what you want. What does the market say it needs? It may not need exactly what you're asking for, but if you research enough, you align those, and now you got a sniper rifle on what the market is
right.
asking of you based on what you can give it. Period. And those codes and the research, it all helps things to line up precisely. So now we're not guessing, we're being more strategic
Yep,
based on the data. Period.
exactly. Yep.
Period.
And,
Period.
and that's a valuable resource also to see what somebody else was awarded the year before. So it's like you already have an idea as far as like what you can price and what you can charge for your services. So that's very helpful information, a cheat code, like you said. And I know coaches got to go, so I'm going to speed through these other ones. But of course, find the top 5 to 7 companies that do what you do. So once again, see what there's companies already there that laid out the groundwork for you. Just see what they're doing that works. And then, of course, if there's some things that align with what your brand does, there's nothing wrong with emulating what they are doing. So, and then, of course, attending SBA, Chamber of Commerce, local government procurement, SCORE, and Apex Accelerator meetings. Coach, I don't know if you want to quickly say something about those real quick.
Yes. So PTAC, Procurement Technical Assistance Center. Technical assistance is basically the fundamental paperwork that you need, the certifications, the business planning, all the stuff we talked about today. That's called technical assistance. The Department of Defense, no more PTAC. We're going to call them Apex accelerators. So they pretty much slapped them. And long story short, you're not doing what we need you to do. Let's
Hmm.
turn things up a little bit and change the dichotomy of things, and the rules of engagement, how you guys perform. So look up Apex Accelerators. They help you with so many things. Talk with SCORE, get with your SBA. Make sure you're attending these functions because they do these things around there's really a calendar that comes out at the beginning of the year. The beginning of the year calendar shows you every event for the most part that's going to be what topics of discussion, what'll be talked about, who's going to do them by region, by state, by city. There's so much information out here that we can be getting. So those Apex Accelerator meetings are paramount. SBA paramount. I say Port of Houston. Score meetings paramount. It's paramount. To all in all, it'll show you how vast this market is, where you can play ball.
Yep. All
Oh,
right.
biz by sell. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Biz by
I
sell.
like the biz by sell part. Yeah. So biz by sell. Everything we just said, that's you started from zero. Why don't you go to biz by sell once you've gathered a lot of data and say, you know what? Can I buy a business that's already what I'm doing in the that has 10 years, 15, 20 years of tax returns, cash flow statements? They've already tested the market. My score mentor can even help me understand, is this a viable business? Because he just educated me on what I'm about to do. So instead of you trying to start it from zero,
Right.
you could buy a business, part of a business, assets of a business, go to Biz by Sell, industry categories, and start looking around at businesses are for sale. And the same thing we do in real estate, for sale by owners, they have the same thing for businesses. And for sale, there's more businesses for sale than people to purchase them. Let's just say that.
Yeah. And then, of course, you mentioned the mentor. So the importance of getting a mentor is pretty self-explanatory. But once again, getting a mentor that can give you these resources, that can tap you into their networks, that can prod you in the right direction, it's invaluable. That can introduce you into rooms that you might not necessarily have access to. So, but Coach, if you want to say something on that as well, or if I covered it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, 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 no. I mean, I think you did. I mean, having a mentor is underestimated, but it's funny. I was at the Houston Astros game and listening to two guys behind me
Hmm.
were talking about an oil and gas deal and some plastics that they were selling. And one guy was mentoring the other guy. He was about to get out of his business. Look, I'm on the last leg. This is what I'm doing. This is what you should do. Here's this vendor. And they're just chopping it up. I'm just sitting here ear hustling, but understanding what he talked about. This business's EBITDA multiple was this. If you go here, it's less, but you still can make your money. Just those soft conversations
Hmm.
of just perspective from someone who's already there. And the other guy looking to be in, and he just had to sit back, drinking a beer, and listen. Wow. And people who've been there love telling their stories because they don't want you to fall in the same issue.
Right.
They
Right.
want you to be just as successful as they are. When he
Yep.
takes the boat out on the weekend and just goes do whatever, or when he plays golf or goes to the cigar bar, whatever you want to do, you'd be surprised the things you find from mentors and all that expertise. So get yourself a mentor or mentors, but go to school first.
Definitely.
Definitely go to school first.
And then lastly, get to know your SBA office. So go to your local SBA office. You can go to SBA.gov and score.org. But Coach, if you want to say something about that as well.
The Small Business Administration, I think their 75th anniversary is this week, like today, yesterday. So they've been around since 1953 or so. The Small Business Administration office, again, boring to some, but boy, are they a resource. Them and SCORE right in there. I got my mentor on this side, and I got hella resources on the other side. And whatever I'm trying to do, funding, strategy, networking, who to talk to, who not to talk to, where to go, what's going on, they're there, and they are
Hmm.
champions of small business. So go get to know them. For the most part, they're pretty cool people. They're nice people.
Right.
They really are. And the more they see you showing up, especially the SBA, there's money out here. They have guidance and the SBA scorecard, football scorecard, the SBA
Hmm.
scorecard. They'll show you exactly money, what contracts, what businesses needed, what categories of business work, don't work, high risk, low risk. So you'd be surprised what you'll see compared to what's actually going on here in the real world.
Hmm.
And you juxtapose that with the LinkedIn profile and how active they are on LinkedIn, your level of success goes so much higher with what you've learned hour and 15 minutes, hour and a half that you've been with us today. So pivotal.
Yeah.
And we could have went another couple of ways with it, but I'm glad we kind of set the questions up and the thought process up. Like, what do they need to know
Yep.
that I feel it's not being talked about? So before the LLC and S corp, we got to do this.
Right.
So, Colin, man, this has
Yeah.
been great. Round
Yep.
two, part two, we got to
Yes.
dive in deeper. But I wanted this to be the catalyst for more.
Absolutely, because this is all very important information. So, Coach, thank you for uh, donating some of your time to give us these gems and these jewels. So, of course, you talked about Bank Ready. Please talk about your initiative, Bank Ready, what that is, what it does, and how can people get involved.
Exactly. Bank ready is twofold. When people hear bank ready, they immediately think the bank, which is true. We are a partner with local banks. We are making sure that you guys are bank ready, underwriter ready. What is the bank going to ask of me? What do I need to know to even converse with a bank to make sure that my ducks are in a row, my paperwork, my numbers, my cash flow statements, my cash burn, my break even, all those things that you want to know as a business when it comes to the financial fiscal side of things. We get you ready for that. And we have a proven system in that the banks are asking us to work with them. Uh, Partnering, like really partnering and teaching within their institutions. It also means being bankable for the marketplace. What you want to do, can you get a check from that bank, from that marketplace? Can you pretty much say my business plan is this? It's an ATM card. Am I bankable? Can I bank on making money with this? So bankready.ai is our new website. We just launched it about a month ago. Whole new brand. We've been using artificial intelligence for about 3.5 years now, but we really want to put that out to the public that we use AI to be efficient within our business development models, right? To make sure that when you're out there to the dime, we know where you need to go. And from business development to coaching, we're launching right now. So we have open enrollment for our 6-week high intensive coaching program. I wanted something that was a little bit smaller but more intensive than the accelerator that we have.
Hmm.
The
Yeah.
accelerator is out of 6 months or 12 months. But some folks aren't ready for that just yet. So let's go through the 6-week intensive, me and you, staff as well. And let's make sure you're almost mini bank ready to where you've done your research, you've done your part. Let's put you in this rocket and shoot you out. But when you're done, you're polished. You can go out there and do your thing and then almost graduate into the accelerator. Some people go right into it. Some
Yeah.
take a little while and they come back, but it's an ecosystem to where wherever you're at in business, we can take where you are and put you where you need to be so that you have your plan, your strategy, all the credentials you need, and the positioning to do whatever you have to do in the marketplace. That is
Yeah.
bank ready in and of itself.
So,
So
so
definitely
y'all,
visit bankready.ai.
so
Go ahead.
y'all essentially mentors.
What's what's that?
I said, so y'all essentially mentors. Everybody that enrolls into this.
Mentors, yeah. So we have a mentor level, yes. We have a coaching level, yes, and a business strategy model around all of it. So I know when to mentor you, I know when to coach you, I know when to be strategic. So being all three of those things, yeah,
Yeah.
we are.
Because I think you heard earlier in this episode of the things that Coach got going on, his business, even getting in a partnership with a bank. So he has this network, he has the resources, he has the tools. So just to get you bank ready, that I mean, to do business with banks, that's huge right there. So it's all about relationship building. And Coach, is there anything else? But I'll link all that information. So if you want to know how you can get involved,
Yeah.
it's linked here on the screen, but it'll also be linked in the description. So once again, check the profile description. But is there anything else you want to leave with, or anything else you got going on?
I would definitely tell people two things. One, be resourceful. Be resourceful, be
Yes.
resourceful. There's
Oh
no room
yes.
there's no room for excuses nowadays. There's no room for this or that. No, because the marketplace doesn't have room for excuses. And number two, bank ready is a verb, is a noun, it's a proven brand from the government contracting space to procurement to B2B. And our clients, when they say, "Oh, you're one of coaches, folks," okay. I I was sitting in a room just this weekend on a boat tour with the Port of Houston, and one of the head equity directors was sitting in that room. One person that wasn't even a client of ours was an associate of a client of ours. Went from A to 100 in one conversation because I knew this person's resume. I knew what they were trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I talked to my client. I said, "I'm going to talk to so and so for them. Is that okay?" She's like, "Are you sure?" I said, "No, you're ready. They're right there. Let's go ahead and let's have a conversation." In that conversation, she asked, well, why did you believe him like that? He said, he's proven already. He's shown us what we need. We're partnering with his firm because he's getting you ready for us. So we have the need. He knows what we need. So if you fit, we're not going to question him because that's what his job is.
Right.
So we're getting you in position for these relationships to happen to where you getting a contract is far beyond the thought process. I want you working with these agencies in a full blown partnership to where they can trust what you do and you can build your firm over time with this and multiple other agencies because you had 5 agencies in one room.
Yeah.
So they all know this person. They're not even a client yet. So our reach is pretty deep, and but our performance is we make sure that you're functional and bankable in this marketplace, which right now is priceless. So I
Yep.
would leave you with that. Bankready.ai, check us out for sure, and get ready for part two sooner than later.
Yep. Part two will come August 15th. So make sure y'all tune in because that's going to be very important. We're going to show you how to set up your actual business, the entity, go into those tangible things, like I said. Coach, thank you again. Really appreciate your time. As I always state, oh, hold on, Coach. Give us a book. What is a book that you recommend our fellow and future entrepreneurs to read that will help them in entrepreneurship or in life in general?
I got what book do I have here? I'm gonna pull a book off the shelf. Um, I would say right now, Powernomics, Dr. Claude Anderson, an old classic. I'm gonna have another one for later on. There's a couple. I got a ton of books on my shelf, but I
Okay.
like what Dr. Claude Anderson teaches in Powernomics, especially for our culture. Um, how to really build that triangle of power
Mm,
in the economic space. Often we'll talk about the reparations of the world and what's needed, what's this, what's that. But how do you build a strong economic base for yourself, for your community, for generations to come? That book gives the blueprint. It really should be a coffee top book right alongside the Bible, to be honest with you.
yeah.
I,
Well,
that's a book. Get it though, and digest it and study it and break it apart. Yeah, that would be a great book for everybody. If you don't have it, please get it.
awesome. It'll be linked in the description, so make sure y'all check that out as well. But according to the Small Business Administration, about 20% of small businesses fail within their first year, 30% fail within the second year, and 50% fail after 5 years in business. The tips, resources, and advice that we give on this podcast will ensure that you are not one of those statistics. Hopefully, y'all are out there taking notes. Until next time, we're outie.